Welcome to the Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical, and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.
So, welcome to the show. This is going out on Mintwave Radio. You can simply ask Alexa or go to the website above, mintwave-radio.com. If it's via podcast, same website, you can download the app for Android and Apple. Feel free to subscribe to any of the podcasts on our network. There are many. And follow or leave a comment. Today's episode is 164. And today we have Gail Kraft, who is an empowerment master. And we're going to be talking about the journey to enlightenment, power of the mind. I'm your host, Karen Roberts. We are helping coaches and therapists get their message heard to the people who need to hear it. Now, Gail, her Boston roots have led her down a path of self-discovery from a very young age, and they have shaped her into a masterful business, leadership, and spirituality leader. She's a powerful speaker, creator of the Flow Formula, a trainer for the journey to enlightenment, and author of the Empowering Process. She's also host of the Empowering Process podcast. Now, Gail's focus in life is to help others create harmony with their mind, body, and spirit so that they can operate in purpose always. Gail's experiences and commitment to following her intrinsic calling have paved her path to success and have also given her the knowledge to empower others to embrace their lives. So, welcome to the show, Gail.
Oh, thank you, Karen. I am a big believer in if I share information with you, I drink my own Kool-Aid.
Ah! So. There you go. She's drinking Kool-Aid.
There you go.
There you go. Fantastic. So, first of all, would you like to share with the audience a little bit of your backstory, how you came to be doing what you're doing now?
Oh, it's interesting. Today, I realized I've been doing this for 18 years.
Wow.
Yes. So it started, I worked in corporate. I was very successful in corporate. I was at C-level on the board of directors, did not like that, by the way, and decided to move from the East Coast of the United States all the way 3,000 miles to the West Coast. And in that experience, the job that I took, I absolutely knew was the wrong place for me. But okay, here's how your emotions drive you to making decisions that may not be correct. I stayed because here I was in an environment where I knew nobody. I was afraid to lose the job. And as a result, I worked from a space of fear, which is a vibration that is not your highest. And finally ended up getting fired. Best thing ever. Because that's when I decided to take a look at myself and say, what do I want to do? I decided I don't want to work for corporate anymore, but I will definitely go into the contracting business. And I fell into coaching. I got a training certificate as a coach because I felt I needed to communicate well with people. And that was it, Karen. It was over. It pulls me. I am drawn to learn more, to do more, to expand more, to go higher, to get curious, right? There's a rock. Let me turn that one upside down. Oh, there's another rock. Let me turn that upside down. And so my life has been like that ever since. And I share this with my clients. And Journey to Enlightenment is as a result of some of the truths that I've uncovered.
Isn't it interesting that sometimes we need that nudge from the universe? Or kick. Yeah, I've had one of those. I've had a full push. But isn't it funny that, like you just said, fear can hold you back because this safety blanket was a perceived safety blanket because you've got a job, To actually step out on your own can be a scary place. And sometimes it's only when something major happens. Okay, you got fired, a little bit drastic, but the nudge you needed at that time because you weren't listening to the universe. And
Oh
sometimes
no.
the universe needs to push you. I find it such a fascinating thing because it is so common that when we're
It is
too comfortable,
it is
we just don't take
so
action.
it is so common. That's where empowerment comes in. I just did a keynote last week, and that one was on flow. And in that keynote, I started off talking about some of the stories that were told by the other speakers, which were they literally to suicide before they woke up. And I started with why do we hang on to resistance in our body, in our soul, until that breaking point before we let go and allow the flow of the universe to work with us? Because at that point, you give up. And when you give up, you give in. And my goal is to work with you before you get to the have to give up stage, right? Let's learn how to tap in to the source that we are from and we are part of. Let's learn how to utilize that and get into synchronicity, if you will, so that we follow our highest self, right? Before we are at the brink, before we're fired, before we put the gun in our mouth, before we take too many pills, before we turn the gas on, before we jump from the roof, right? All of those things that we all get to before we wake up.
And then it will be a lot easier, wouldn't it? It's going to be a lot easier. But do you think that just by nature, we tend to be like this? We've all heard the phrase prevention is better than cure. But again, we tend to, as human beings, wait until something's wrong and then we'll search for things to fix, as opposed to looking at everything and trying to get everything right so that we prevent, so we don't have to go down that. Where do you think that comes from? Why are we conditioned to work that way as opposed to it doesn't have to be that hard?
Oh my gosh, and it's not that hard once you give in. It's so easy. It's so easy. Why do we get that? It's the human condition of being comfortable. And it's the human condition of being afraid of the danger, perceived danger of change. Even when we're in an abusive situation, I was married to a narcissist for quite a while, right? And it's the abuse. A couple of things. I'll tell you what went on in my head, and I'm not going to label anyone. What was going on in my head at that time. I know this. I know, what to expect, right? Number one. Number two, no one knew. Everyone thought we were the perfect couple. Don't let your dirty little secrets out there. Keep the facade up. And that is shame and embarrassment. Shame is so huge. And right? Whoa, so huge. And so what I look for when I work with my clients is to work with the judgment and expectations to help get underneath that. And if we can get to the point where we recognize judgment, and I'll talk a little bit about that, and realize that we have expectations that maybe we should remove, then we can get into what I call flow. And then we can start taking that journey to enlightenment. Judgments is a tough thing because we have to judge. We have to say, I don't like this, so therefore I like that. We are making analysis, we're making comparisons. That's what we do in order to expand and grow as human beings. The problem is when that judgment becomes judgmental, right? And puts blame on others and not allowing you to take accountability and responsibility for your own actions and your own life. When that happens, then it becomes toxic to you and others. So it's really interesting working on this. The journey to enlightenment has so many facets that we go through. So I start where you're at. I'm not going to throw a huge woo at you when you're not yet ready to embrace it, but you want it. So let's first work on the judgment and expectations and get you to a place of calmness. And then we can start stepping into who are we and why are we really here?
Love that. Isn't that funny that how our vocabulary can change a whole thing? So what you just said there, we all make judgments, which is okay to a point until we're judgmental. And that's massive for me, because that's on the face of it, they're the same words, but they're not. They have two totally different meanings. And
Right?
yeah, like it or not, we all the whole, just that whole that's the difference. Because you think, yeah, we shouldn't judge, but we do naturally anyway. We judge ourselves.
Right?
Maybe we shouldn't do that. But even judging others,
if we're
curious, love
right.
it. There you go. Just a flip in the change of
Right.
vocabulary.
Right.
Change that judgment into just being curious. But that's fascinated me. Judgment to being judgmental is where it's toxic. We do, just goes to show we have to be careful with the words that we choose.
And then the intention. So I do have another book that came out, a small book called Crafting the Flow Formula. And part of that formula is be honest and aware of your intentions behind the language that you're using. Because no matter what words you use, it's your intention, I feel. And I'm at the point in my life where I don't have time to pussyfoot around. So and I have done this, if I'm in a conversation with you, so we're out to coffee, we're getting to know each other, and you're telling me all about blah, 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 what you do. And I'm listening and I hear nothing but lies. And I will say, I'll give you an exact example. So I was having coffee with a gentleman who is a coach for women. And he's giving me all of the reasons why he's a good coach for women. And all I'm hearing as he's talking is he's a coach for women because women are more likely to spend money on a coach than a man. And so it's easier for him to market. That's what I'm hearing as he's talking. And so when he was done, I said, technically, I am your client from what you described. But sitting here talking with you, I find you so disingenuous, I would never work with you.
Wow.
And so you would think that was a harsh thing. But what I followed up with that is you need to discover who you are before you can start telling other people who they are. And he went on a journey and he actually stopped. And he went on a journey to find out who he is so that he could bring value.
Because I suppose there's so much stuff around to this is how you do things, and it doesn't necessarily align with their values. So they're just churning it out or regurgitating, and it's not actually coming from within. It's not actually coming from them. Like you say, you're going to pick up on that because we're spiritual beings, we're energy beings. We pick up on energy. This is why we feel a certain vibe, because we're not hearing the words that are coming out of people's mouths. We're sensing the energy behind it. Love that. It's always the intention behind the universe doesn't understand. It doesn't speak all the languages of the planet, does it?
No. Translate. Okay. Translate. It's so interesting because we are energy. The table is energy. Water is energy. We all know that everything is made of molecules, and molecules have energy. So therefore, so are we. And therefore, we are a vibration at a certain density. And so therefore, our ideal communication is through vibration which words are a vibration, right? But our thoughts are a stronger vibration, a more pure vibration. And even before our thoughts, because that's a translation, the vibration that we get, the impression that we get, we translate it into a picture, then we translate the picture into words, and then we communicate the words through our belief system. And so what comes out is not at all as pure as the initial vibration. So
Love that.
Right. And so when we can communicate, and we've all done it, we've all had someone that we've been with where we don't even have to say anything, we just know. That's called flow. We just know, right? We can move as one. When we get to that state, our vibrations are so in sync, we have joined. And, you can do that as a leader. You can do that with your teams. You can do that with your spouse. You can do that with yourself. But it's all about getting in alignment. And it's so beautiful when you do that. Miracles happen.
So what is stopping people, this distrust of we've been somehow become detached from it and somehow been conditioned to not trust that inner voice, that inner knowing? What's going on?
A lot of it is control. Our parents controlled us. Our school system controls us. Our government controls us. Our spouse controls us. Our children controls us. And we give up into that control because that's how we were taught. As teenagers, we start to realize something's not right, and that's teenage rebellion, but we don't understand, right? We don't understand that we are now looking for our identity as an individual within a collective, and we don't understand what it is that we're fighting against to get there. And so at some point, because we need to work, we think we need to put a roof over our head, we think, and so we need to give in again to the control of a boss, of a corporation, of a system that eats away at who we are at our very core. And it doesn't have to be that way.
So
go ahead.
We've just got to learn to trust. We've got to learn to trust it. Where do you start?
Oh, where did I start? I'll start with that because everybody's an individual. So it depends on where you are. But I started with just being quiet. Now, I have meditated, but then starting to ask questions. That is the best thing, is ask questions. And the question I ask is, what if this wasn't true? Ask yourself, what if this right now is not true? What if this is a story that I can rewrite? What if this is their reaction to me has nothing to do with the words coming out of their mouth? What if this is not true? When you start asking, what if this is not true? You find out that most of what you hear is not true. And when you start looking for truth, and that's why Journey to Enlightenment is about seeking yourself and truth, right? When you're able to do that, some of the things that happen, it's just like this. Again, this week, it was a powerful week. I was at a weekend retreat, or it's a 2-day retreat. I was presenting, and I was with some very powerful presenters. It was crazy, the backstage people, right? And one of them, he is a fixer. If you need someone physically to go in and get things done, he is a fixer. If you need someone emotionally to go in, he's a puppy dog. He just sees what needs to be done. And I literally went up to him and I punched him in the arm 3 times. I don't punch people. And I looked at him and said, I must have needed to do that. Thank you. He goes, you can punch me anytime. But I realized that the excitement about what was going on, it was a very powerful event, was exhausting me. And I needed to dispel the energy And he was the perfect puppy dog to do that with.
He was the punch bag.
Oh my God, he was perfect. He was perfect. And honestly, there were some things that I showed up for him as well. The conversations we were having, I was like, yes, I do know that person. Yes, I do know what's going on. Yes, I can give you some guidance. Yes, I will tell you what you should do. Awesome. You just, when you are in flow, which happens when you go through the journey of enlightenment, you actually don't even have to. Why did I sit down with him of all of the people and have that conversation? Why did, certain people come to me? Why was I drawn and why were they drawn? Because there was something about me that they needed at the time, or vice versa. How do you know that? You just know it energetically. This was all before I spoke. I was third to last speaker, so it had nothing to do with my presentation. Absolutely nothing. It had to do with my energy and feeding off of that. So when we can bring the walls down, then people can see who we are. And that's the fear. People can see who I am. And you may not like me. That's okay. That's okay if you don't like me. But for many people, judgment, the fear of being judged, if I expose, there was the time in my life, and some of you might relate to this conversation in your head, where I thought, if they knew the truth of what I thought and who I was, they would hate me.
Wow.
Right?
Isn't that funny?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That this fear of judgment is a very real thing and a very big thing. And that is what's stopping people.
Right.
From stepping out into their truth because of this simple fear, which again, it's not a truth, is it?
It is.
It's
Well,
not true.
It's true. Some people aren't going to like me. It's true.
Oh yeah, but it's some will, some won't, and it's all okay. It's this
okay.
fear of all this. I don't know. Yeah, why would you want to be loved by all? We're all different. Everybody's going to resonate with different people, and so it's okay. But again, where is that coming from? Why have we been brought up to think that we've got to do things so that everybody likes us? Otherwise, we're a failure.
Well, again, we were raised that way. We were raised to make mommy happy, make daddy happy, make the teachers happy, make your friends happy. I spent a good portion of my life bending and flexing, trying to make the boss happy, trying to make the team happy, trying to make, right? And I had a few emotional breakdowns where I physically, my body couldn't take it anymore. And I couldn't get out of bed for 2 or 3 days.
Wow.
Because I wasn't feeding myself. I really needed to be punched in the face from the universe to wake up. And I am never exhausted anymore. I am always feeding me first. Right? And the saying that I hear now is feed yourself and feed everyone else from the overflow. Right? So don't feed from your essence, feed from your overflow. And I don't even see myself as feeding anymore. So here's another trap that I fell into that many of us fall into. And it's another keynote I'm working on. And it's the trilogy of the victim, perpetrator, savior. I wanted to save everybody. I want to save you, which means how much respect can I have for someone if I'm in a relationship with a victim? But I'm going to save you. And here's what happens to the victim. The victim goes, save me, get me off the railroad tracks. Then I save you. And now the victim is, I have no self-respect now because of you. You didn't give me the chance to do this on my own. So now the victim becomes the perpetrator. And the perpetrator is aiming their arrows at the savior, who now becomes the victim.
I recognize that.
Yes, and it's a circle. And this is a recent aha that I had, because I started asking the questions, what if that's a lie? What if that's a lie? What if I looked at this differently? Well, what really is going on? Stepping out and looking at situations. And so we get trapped in that, trying to help someone, especially coaches. Why are you coaching? Because I want to save the world. It's not your job to save anybody but yourself. Who do you think you are to be saving the world? Even Jesus didn't save the world. It was just an example. Getting to that point, and I was the savior, so therefore I was a perpetrator and I was the victim, right? Because I got in that trap at some point in my life. And now, if you coach with me, it's not going to be easy at first. It takes a while for people to get comfortable, because I don't know, what do you think happened? How would you feel about it? What if you asked yourself this question instead? So I don't give solutions. I teach you how to be self-sufficient and ask yourself questions.
So you're empowering them. Yeah. Like you just said, it's not your job to save the world. It's not your job to save your client. They need to save themselves.
And clients that I in the past had clients come to me who wanted me to save them. Not anymore, because I'm not the right coach for them. They don't even show up. But at the time, I was still saving. I was one of those coaches. And I remember a client really angry at me because I was no longer saving my clients. I had learned what I was doing, I realized, and was changing my approach. And she was so angry at a meeting. And I said, can you tell me what's going on right now? She said, you're not making me feel good today. And my fault, guys. I was the savior and I was stepping out of that role. And I said, honey, it's not my job to save you. It's my job to be a mirror for you, to learn to save yourself. So I'm going to end this meeting and I want you to think about what it is that you want from me. And then we're going to have a talk as to whether or not we'll continue. And we ended the meeting and she did come back, but it was a completely different coaching style that she was facing at the time. But she had to make a decision, and as all my clients do, are you willing to do the work? I'm not lifting you, I'm lifting myself. But I'd be so happy to give you tools and exercises and techniques and questions and processes so that you can work on yourself and become the best version of you day after day. And isn't that what we're here for? To be the best we can possibly be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the journey to enlightenment, what does that mean for you?
That means stepping into understanding who we are from mind, body, and spirit perspective. So our body holds our history. Our body holds our trauma. Our body has a mind of its own. And so listen, and your body knows before your mind knows. That's where your intuition will tingle. I listen to my body, man. It will tell me, like, ooh, you have that little step back. That's your body saying, whoa, something's not quite right here for you, right? So listen to your body. And then listen to the voice in your head, not your ego. And then how do you differentiate between them? And your ego does have a role. Your ego's there to protect you. So you do want to say, is this real or imagined? It's imagined. Okay, so it's the question. All right, thank you, ego. Out of my way. And then move up. But thank yourself for doing the job it's there to do. I'll give you another aha that I had around the fall of last year. And it's about Maslow's triangle. Maslow's triangle says, I cannot feel self-esteem until I have a roof over my head, food, and clothing. So my basic needs have to be met. Like the base chakra. I cannot have self-esteem unless kind of like your chakra, right? I can't be self-actualized. So he says in his triangle that we're climbing up the triangle to self-actualization. Many people who teach you about your chakras will say the same thing. What do you mean I can't feel love in my heart if my base chakra is out of alignment? That's BS. You're telling me I can't feel love? I was so confused by that, right? Because wait a minute, sometimes I can remember being broke, not having a roof over my head, wondering if I should sell pencils, and I still had love in my heart. And you're telling me that's not real? That's not true. So I started asking, what if they're both lying and we turn that upside down? If we do that, then we don't start at the base trying to climb up the triangle. We start at the top, already self-actualized. And that means everything is available to us. That's where the truth is, because we are all self-actualized. If we believe that we are energetic beings, if we believe that we come from a higher source, whether you call it God, whether you call it the universe, whether you call it macaroni, it doesn't matter. Something we're connected to. If you believe that, then everything is flowing down, not pushing up. And so we've been taught to struggle when we should give in. That's the journey to enlightenment.
So it's working backwards. There are so many things out there that it's so difficult to work out which way is the right way or not, other than you know it within, because there are so many different teachings and not all of them are true. Like you just said there.
And many of them are, this is what I taught to believe, and it seems to work. And many of them are, this is going to keep you in place so that you don't wake up. Because when we wake up, then we're no longer controllable. And I'm no longer controllable. I really, and not a fighting perspective, but I will not take you at your word. I will look for the intention behind the language. I will feel what you have to say, and I will interpret that for, does that feel in alignment to what I know to be true? And what I know to be true today might just be a story that I'm telling myself. I don't know. It's all just a story. So here's, do we have time? I have time for more. Okay. Yeah. So the story, let's go with the story. So we already talked about, if we are source, if we're coming from a God place, then we are energy. If we are energy, then what's this thing that we call life? I call it, first of all, a game. It's a game called life. So if it's a game, number one, don't take everything so seriously, guys. Seriously, honestly, right? You got to meet this deadline. Really? Will someone die if I don't? Okay, then it's not that serious. Start putting some, so if I miss the deadline, someone will get angry. Some money may not be made. So what?
Does it matter?
Does it matter? Okay, so don't take yourself so seriously, right? And then the other is that you have choices every single moment of every single day. I have a choice to continue this conversation or end it, right? I have a choice to, oh, hold on, I'm going to go, right? I have choices every single moment. And so in those choices, I create a vibration that creates my future reality, right? Because who knows, someone might hear this and go, hey, I'm going to check out that chick and give her a call, and maybe, right? Everything I do creates this illusion of energy that we call life. And if you start looking at everything as a vibration, which it is, and that what you are experiencing is something you've created, which it is, then you become the writer, the director, the scene maker, the main character of your play. And if you do that, I'll give you a story of one of my clients. If you do that, you start owning everything. So I've a gentleman I've been working with, oh my goodness, maybe 6 years now. And we started off with expectations and relationships and things like that. And he's on the West Coast. I recently went to visit and we went to lunch. And first of all, he tells me all of the things that are being dumped in front of him that he has wanted. And the universe is basically saying, oh man, I got this pile of stuff you've been desiring. Here, everything. Bam. He's been getting phone calls and offers. And like, I said, now it's time to make a choice because you can't do it all. Now it's time to really decide what you want. He says, recently, I've been walking around and I literally see through people like they're not real. I said, no, the only thing real is you. Everything else is a projection. And you bring those people, like I said, energetically, people were coming to me, right? Because of the story that you're creating of your life. And so you create the other characters that are coming in, the other actors that are coming on your stage. And your response creates an environment where they're going to have their response, which now you're writing the script, right? You're writing their script too. And you can choose, I don't want that person on my stage. And he's done that, and they literally have disappeared from his life. Literally have just dropped off the face of the earth. They're still around. They just are not in his sphere. Recently, he and I do a monthly touch base. He's a dancer. He's a competitive dancer and an instructor. And he's wanted one person who does all the genres he does, which is odd because he does hip hop, he does Argentine tango, he does West Coast swing, very eclectic mix. He gave me a call. He goes, yes, showed up and we're doing it. And we competed. Now, this is the first time they've competed as a couple. Oh, we won first place in our class. Yes. So getting the right person. And this is a desire he had put out there, but he held on to, I wouldn't call it fear, but a responsibility of staying with the partner that he had. Even though it wasn't the right partner for that, it was the right partner for other things, but not for that mix that he was looking for. When he was finally ready to let go of trying to control a situation and make something happen, when he finally let go, the phone rang. Yeah, I've been following you for a while. I really would like to talk to you about all the genres I'm interested in. Bam.
But it's so difficult to give up the control. Going back to how we've been conditioned, we've been brought up. See, I used to always think I am heart-centered, but it was my ego that was trying to control, because you think that I've got to do this and I've got to make this list and I've got to tick this off and I've got to actually step back and allow. It's not easy when
it's frightening. It's frightening.
Yeah. Because what if all these alarm bells start going off?
You have to, you need to. And I hear that. I grew up with a fear-based family.
I've got to do this. I've got to do this. No.
Oh,
how then? How do you let that go?
Oh, so you can practice fear. So here's one of my favorite things. I have someone who did this for 365 days. She's not afraid of anything. When you get up in the morning, think of one thing that kind of frightens you and then go do it. Whether it's going out to a restaurant and sitting there by yourself, whatever, I'm trying to think of things that I've done. And so I am afraid of crowds. I do not like to show up by myself. And I dance. I was a dancer. And for me to show up at a dance by myself in that room full of people, there were times I had my dance shoes on and I literally had my hand on the doorknob and I turned around and went home. Yes, because the energy is overwhelming for me. And so I can justify it all I want. It's a fear of that energy. And so just go open the door and see that I didn't die. Okay, take a step forward and see that no one cares that I'm there or not. Huh.
Funny
Go in
that.
and yes, funny that. Go in and sit down. And then what happens? Whoa, Gail's here. Hey, come on, let's go dance. Amazing. Amazing. So just little steps. I don't want you to skydive until you're ready, but
I'm
that's
ready.
height. I literally could not go up this to the second rung of a ladder. Okay. When I worked on conquering fear, I went to it's a warrior camp. And one of the things that we did was a lot of climbing. So I had to climb up a telephone pole and jump off. Well, they had me in a harness. You don't like jump and see if you die or not. Right. So I climbed up, climbing up this, not even realizing that there was a time I would never even have gotten on that thing, never mind to the top. And then when I went to jump, I thought, oh, be sure your eyes are open because the scenery is gorgeous up here. And so there were many challenges that were height and shaky that I just did. And it wasn't until after warrior camp that I was going home and I went, wow, look at what you did. Look at what you did. And you didn't even feel. And so when you get comfortable with being uncomfortable, it's like an elastic, and do it like an elastic. You don't want to pull an elastic all the way out to shoot it because it's going to break. But you pull it till it's a little tension and then relax it and a little bit. And eventually you can pull it more and more. Right. And so you want to expand your sphere very gently and very intentionally. And so every day, do something a little bit frightening, even taking a different route to work, going away you've never gone before. I used to take rides to nowhere and see if I could get lost without my GPS. I'm terrible on directions. And then be like, I don't know, north, south, east, or west. How would I get home? Well, if I keep going this way, I'm either going to hit the ocean or hit a major road. So I'm just going to keep going in this direction. And sure enough, one or the other, right? Even if you're in the middle of the country, you'll hit a river, a lake, you'll hit something that you recognize. And you go, oh my gosh, I'm so far off. Okay, but I know where I am and I'm going to get back.
Yeah. So it's all the what ifs that stop us. But what I'm hearing from you is just don't have to jump out of your comfort zone. Just dip your toe out a little bit, come back and get used to doing that daily so that you get used to stepping out your comfort zone.
It's when I was in corporate, one of the things that I was known for is I could implement anything. I could make things happen that other people couldn't. And part of that was risk planning. Like, here's where this could break. Here's where that could break. Seeing the weak points and creating a plan or two around the potential of this happening. What will we do? What does that mean? It means I trained my team to be agile and learn how to respond if there is something that unexpected happens. Right. And so maybe, and frequently what did come up had nothing to do with what we saw could come up. It was something we didn't expect, but we as the team knew how to, as the team, respond because we practiced.
And there it is.
Yes.
And that's what, do you think that many people are just resistant to change? It doesn't matter whether that change could be something really simple to do every day, but if it's something different to what they're currently doing, that seems to be the resistance.
Right, because the unknown is on the other side.
Change.
Right. And we have, as especially the US of A, have been culturally softened to be comfortable. Let's just come home from work and have our oversized meal and our Coke and our chips and sit on our butts and eat ice cream and watch TV and go to bed. That's living.
Yeah.
And so don't take any of this away from me. And in fact, I want more comfort, right? I deserve comfort. You don't deserve anything. that you haven't earned. And I don't mean financially, spiritually and emotionally, right?
Yeah.
That's where the real work is. And so to be thrown out of our comfort zone is more frightening now than it was 150 years ago. Because
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Would anyone today have the bravery to get in a covered wagon and go across the country, not knowing if you're going to survive?
No, not going to happen. Yeah, you're
And the
right.
average everyday person did it then in those days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been both, hasn't it? It's been a mixed thing. Yeah. With the growth, like you say, we have got to, and I think that is a massive part when people are too comfortable to go out on their own and start their own thing. It's too scary, and is it worth the risk? I'm actually doing okay.
Yeah.
I'm making
I have
a
my
living.
2 weeks vacation, my 5 days sick. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas the ones that are like, if this doesn't happen by next month, otherwise I lose my home and I'm out on the street. Okay,
Right.
they're the ones that will make it happen because, like you said, it's when you're fired, you've got to. How many choices have you got? You're not gonna roll over and die. So you're going to come out there. But yes, I agree with you. The comfort zone is the danger part. People are in general too comfortable. And I don't know how you have it there, but in England, even the welfare system is pretty damn good.
Let me tell you, I'll tell you about that. I've been on the welfare system here. Okay. So back in the day, I told you the narcissist, I left him with my 1.5-year-old daughter because I didn't want her to think this was normal. And so I immediately went down and signed up for welfare because I needed to get someplace to live and food in her mouth. Right. And so here's what happened. I'm thinking, okay, this is a stopgap. I'm going to look for work. First of all, where are the babysitting options around where I'm living, and check those out. How much is that going to cost? How much am I going to need? And how am I going to get to work? Because I had no vehicle. So I needed to be by public transportation. All of the logistics I'm planning. Meanwhile, I'm getting calls. Your refrigerator's broken, Gail. All you have to do is call welfare and they'll replace it. Hey, if you do this, you'll get more money on that. And I'm like, no, I'm getting off welfare. And so most people are socialized to stay on welfare and they learn, right, to use the system. I looked at it as this will hold me until I get a job. Let me tell you about what happened because I did that. So I'm in a roach infested 1-bedroom apartment with my daughter. She's sleeping in a bed. I'm sleeping on the couch and I'm on welfare. Like, this is living. And it cost me. I lost money when I got my first job because I had to pay daycare and transportation. It was really questionable if I could put food on the table. Within 2 years, I got a phone call from an organization I was working in. And they said, we're in trouble. I'm firing your manager. And I think you can pull us out.
Wow.
I owned a home, a brand new car, and I was a manager in a very prestigious organization.
There you go.
That would not have happened on welfare.
On welfare, no. And that's the danger I see, that they're people too comfortable to actually risk. Oh, I might lose this, I might lose that. And they're never going to. So do you think that's part of it? That's that fear control is keeping people stuck.
And so practice a little bit about doing something a little bit fearful. Even don't put on that TV for an hour in the evening. That's very traumatic for some people.
Get rid of it. The best thing I ever did 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago.
Been there.
I haven't had a TV since. It was the best decision.
Shut the news off. Put your cell phone down for 3 hours. Oh, here's one. When you get up in the morning, don't put on the TV. Don't use your cell phone. Meditate for an hour. Go for a walk. Do anything healthy, exercise, anything healthy for an hour before you do
Love it.
anything else. Right? Very
Yeah.
fearful. Break your routine. Break your routine. That's a little bit of a fear. Breaking your fear is breaking your routine, because your body and you're just so used to the rut, right? You can break out of that and just every day break out of something, even just change it up. I get up in the morning. The first thing I do is put on my coffee. I didn't do that this morning. So I think I'll wait a moment for my coffee. I'm going to go. We'll definitely feed the cat because he's like all over my feet. So take care of you. Maybe I'll make a little bit of arranging. How's the dog doing? I walked the dog and then came back and had my coffee. Usually by the time I walk the dog, I've already had my coffee.
Well, you didn't drop dead in the meantime because you
No, I'm
changed your
still
routine?
here. Right.
Oh, wow.
And look at the major change I made. I didn't have my coffee when I normally have it.
Yeah, we just get caught up in these programming. So to the listeners, if they can't see all your info at the bottom, to the listeners, and if they're ready to make a change, how do they get in touch with you?
The best way is either through LinkedIn or Facebook to connect with me, and that's Gail, Gail Kraft, Kraft, and give me a message telling me you saw me on this show. Otherwise, I will not accept your request. If you say, I saw you with Karen, it was fantastic, coffee with Karen, would love to talk to you some more, I will then connect with you and send you a link so we could have a conversation. That's the best way. Yep.
Fantastic.
Yep.
So who do you personally love working with then? Who's your ideal client?
Who's my ideal client? Okay, so my ideal client is that person who shows up and says, I've gone so far, but the old tools don't work anymore, and I'm hungry for more. That's my ideal client. Because the old tools, if you're doing the same thing over and over, will get you so far, and then they won't work anymore.
Yeah, and many people get stuck there, right?
No, or if you just want to have a conversation with me, absolutely. You just never know. You just never know. But I will tell you, I have a mentor. I never have not had a coach or have not been going through some kind of training ever in my entire life. If you don't have some mentor or some coach who can help you navigate what you're going through, find one.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I've had many different over the years, and they were all the right one for that time. Because my latest coach, I would never have even understood 20 years back.
Oh my goodness.
It would have gone so over my head because I wasn't ready.
No.
I wasn't ready to hear it.
No, don't call me out. What do you mean you're calling me out? No, I would never have.
Love it. Yeah, every coach needs a coach. We're still
Every
human.
person.
We're all still human. Yeah.
Yep. Every person. It really doesn't matter. And it really is the person who is ready to take the next step, and they just don't know where or what that is. Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be that scary place.
No, it'll be a little scary.
Especially if you've got somebody guiding you.
It'll be
so
a little
what's
scary.
next for Gail? What's next for Gail?
So I've got my podcast, the Empowering Process podcast, which is doing great. I love it. I have a book that just came out, Crafting the Flow Formula. But I'm also working on another book, which is Journey to Enlightenment. Yes. So doing my keynote speaking for sure, and just writing up a storm. It's just not something I thought I would be doing. In December, it just started pouring out. And I'm like, okay, all right. Like I said, if you're telling me to do it, I'm not going to fight it. I'm going to go do it. And it's been a blast.
So how long have you, would you say, been in that flow?
I've been able to tap into flow my entire life. That was, as a manager, has been my success, but I used to call it trusting my gut. Right? Because I was a street kid. I grew up as a gang kid, and you trusted your gut because that's all you had. You trusted the gang and you trusted your gut, right? And so that ability was honed, which I didn't realize at a very young age. And so I've always trusted my gut. I didn't always follow it. I would say, yeah, I know, but, and now I don't say but. I'll say, I don't understand, but okay, let's go.
Wow, fantastic.
Yep.
Thank you for your time today. It's been lovely speaking with you. And it is such an interesting subject because so many people are caught up in that control state,
Right.
and not understanding that everything will flow so much easier when you get rid of the resistance.
Yes.
But having that trust, but like you said, it takes practice.
It takes practice.
You have to do the inner work.
Yes, it
But,
takes practice.
But yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for your time. And so to
Oh,
the
Karen.
listeners out there, I will be back on Thursday with a coffee with Karen. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo